Hello everyone, my name is Phawx. By now you've heard the news that the Asus ROG Ally features a FREESYNC display. This would make it the first handheld that has a VRR capable display. This is big news in and of itself and something that PC gamers have been wanting for a long time now, and now the newer console gamers with the latest console generation supporting VRR displays, this is something that they're aware of and get the intrinsic value of that. There are power implications that we still have to talk about this, and we can kind of really dig into the details a little bit without even having the device, but we can kind of comment on it. Before I get into that particular segment, the one thing that I do want to talk about here that isn't directly referenced in Asus's material is that just by definition of them saying it is a FREESYNC display, what they are saying is that categorically it is most likely an eDP display, an embedded DisplayPort display. And why is that? Well, MIPI DSi 2, the latest generation of MIPI DSi, technically doesn't support FREESYNC or VRR. What they do support is adaptive refresh rate. This is different from the VESA's VRR standard in that adaptive refresh rate kind of works how the Steam Deck works. Like you would set a 40 Hertz and it stays at 40 Hertz. The only thing that the MIPI DSi V2 panels do is that they will adaptively do that. So they can support 10 Hertz, 20 Hertz, 24 Hertz, 30, 48, 60, 72, and so on. But these are static types of frequencies that the display will support, and it will jump in between those and stay there. It won't do like 27, 26, 25, 28 as a game is fluctuating. It doesn't do that. So by Asus saying that it is a FREESYNC display, we can pretty much omit that it is using a MIPI DSi panel and is in fact using a DisplayPort panel, or in this case, an eDP embedded DisplayPort panel, which is huge because if we could basically figure that part out, why that matters is if it's an embedded DisplayPort that supports FREESYNC, ergo, it is a native landscape panel. And why that matters is because it is a Windows-based handheld, like it is only supporting Windows from the get-go. The problem becomes when you run older games, DirectX 8 or older, or DirectDraw games, on a portrait-based display, what happens is the game crashes or runs but is at half resolution. So by having a native landscape panel, all older games are just going to work without having to worry about like putting on wrappers or anything. This is pretty huge. So this is one concern that I have that I no longer face. Like if I was a betting man, if I was Vegas, I would wager that this is going to be a native landscape display. So that is awesome news. Like this is really big news that I don't think that anyone's really going to cover. Obviously we don't have any confirmation, but because of all of the other stuff, the FREESYNC display, knock on, it can't be MIPI, it has to be eDP. If it's eDP, it's landscape native. All of these things kind of follow each other. So that's really, really cool. Let us talk about the power implications of having a VRR panel. Now, I have said before that a VRR panel encourages people to be wasteful in terms of power. And why it encourages someone, it's not that a VRR panel uses more power. It doesn't. What it does do is instead of you trying to lock at 60 or lock at 40 and trying to get the power savings in there, instead you don't lock to anything and you let VRR sort it all out and just gun the TDP at whatever you want and always use that amount of TDP. So in effect, where you could have gotten battery savings by a scene in a game not needing to go over 60, that means TDP could scale down during that scene, thus giving you better battery life at that moment. So VRR, in effect, makes it so that you get the worst battery life possible within a given TDP load. Now, that doesn't mean anything bad or anything. Like, let's say that Asus says on a handheld state, you can only run at 15 watt. The batteries can't be that large, and I only say that because if we take a look at the Steam Deck, it is a 40 watt hour battery, and the Asus ROG Ally weighs about 10% less. So it's instead of like 660 grams, it's 600 grams. So it weighs a good bit less, and Asus could be doing some magic where they get like 10% greater battery, maybe 20% more battery, but we're still fighting things, right? Like if you were to run at 15 watt TDP, the total system power is most likely going to be something that's like the Steam Deck and you're looking at 27 watt total power. So if you are constantly using this power, and let's say in older games where you want to use VRR, and older games inside of 15 watt have no problem going between 60 and 120, like in between. They're just like flitting in between. What that means is you don't really have to worry about anything. You can just play the game and let VRR sort it all out. However, when you are gunning TDP at this always constant 15 watt, what that means is that you're going to get close to like 85 minutes of battery life pretty much all the time. So that's the only kind of negative side of having VRR. And I only bring that up because that's just the reality of it. I think options are good. Like, you don't have to use VRR. You can not use VRR and just like frame cap at 40 and just get the battery life savings. So this is still up to the user to do whatever they want. Maybe you just want VRR and you don't really care about battery life. Who cares? I just want the best of it. The other nice side of this is that for newer games, that for me, when I first was talking about this, because hitting 120 on newer games is very hard, and you're going to be really between like 70 and 100. So in this area where you're plugged in and running at 35 watt, you can still enjoy running on a handheld at 35 watt being plugged in and just fluctuating between 70 and 100 FPS, because VRR will sort that out, and it's going to be nice and smooth for you. So having a FreeSync display is very big news. I would still say that all of us should, pick and choose what we're going to do. And we still have some areas that we can take a look and see how we can benefit more from this. We still have to know what the basement frequency of FreeSync is on this panel, which we don't know yet. They're just saying that it's a FreeSync panel. However, that little bit of news is pretty huge in and of itself, even outside of VRR. Like, even if you weren't going to use it, we're getting confirmation more or less that this is a native landscape panel. So that's pretty much it for me on this particular bit of news. This is awesome news, like excellent news. So I will just leave it at that. As always, guys, thank you for your time, and thanks for watching.